numbers. 454 against 2 dissenting MPs. So yes, history in the making, but also a big question mark on the timeline of it, still inconclusive. We're going to get you the details coming up, but first up, let me take you through the headlines. Women reservation bill set to be passed by the Rajya Sabha. Nadda leads BJP's charge in upper house, lashes out at Congress.
भारत को पहला ओबीसी प्रधानमंत्री भारतीय जनता पार्टी एनडीए ने दिया, यह भी हमको ध्यान रखना है.
It is official, all visas in Canada have been suspended as a resolute India hits back at Canada. MEF says Indian diplomats threatened in Canada and High Commission work disrupted. India debunks Trudeau government on Khalistani terrorist Nijar, says zero action taken on India's terror dossier. India calls Canada a safe haven for terrorism. Khalistani extremist Sukhdul shot dead at Canadian residence. Gangster Lawrence Bishnoi claims responsibility. Crackdown on Khalistani terror by NIA. 10 accused in San Francisco. Indian consulate arson identified. NIA seeks info on accused from public. Boeing rolls out big Make in India plans to open the largest facility outside of the US near Bengaluru. Because very soon we are going to take you to all the action inside the Rajya Sabha, the upper house. The bill discussed for 7.5 hours. Very soon it's going to be put to a vote. And in all probability, well, it's a given that it will pass the Rajya Sabha test. What was also historic is that it cleared Lok Sabha with numbers which are astounding. Over exact number, 454 members voted in favour of the women reservation bill. Only 2 MPs dissented, and both of them from the AIMIM, Asauddin Owaisi and his other MP Jalil. But let's take you now to a face-off that we recorded just about 20 minutes ago between 2 women who spoke, very feisty on the floor of the House yesterday. Both Lok Sabha MPs, both, coming together on the fact that they want women reservation. However, both differ on the bill. Listen in. Warm welcome viewers, you're watching To The Point. I'm Preeti Choudhry. History has been scripted by the time the show ends, possibly in both houses, Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. The women reservation bill would be a reality. It's a headlight moment for India. But what lies ahead is a long, protracted journey. Is this history going to be a reality soon, or is this red herring? The opposition calls it a jumla of sorts. The BJP calls it history being scripted in the annals of Indian Parliament history under the leadership of Prime Minister Modi. I have 2 women with me, 2 MPs who poured their heart out, spoke vociferously on the floor of the Lok Sabha yesterday. From the BJP, I have Lok Sabha MP Aparajita Sarangi. From the TMC, I have Kakoli Ghosh Dastidar. Both of them, fiery speeches made on the floor of the House in support of the bill. However, both of them do differ on the bill as well. I want to go across to Aparajita Sarangi first because the BJP tabled the bill. Aparajita Sarangi, a headlight moment for India, but so many other questions as well. Reality or red herring, ma'am?
A very good evening. I must say that within few minutes, Nari Shakti Vandan Adhiniyam 2023 would be ready to become an act, and it would see the light of the day. So I think 50% of the population of the country would be overjoyed. And I must say at the same time that the men, our counterparts, have also supported us. And yesterday we saw in the Lok Sabha, it was 454:2. So it was overwhelming support for the proposal of Prime Minister Modi. The first day we entered into the new Parliament building, Prime Minister Modi, in fact, introduced the bill and made an appeal to all cutting across party lines to come forward. And in the interest of the women of the country, he made an appeal to actually get this passed. And yesterday we saw the result. Everyone is entitled to his or her own opinion. Yes, we listen to everybody's opinion, but at the end of the day, we could pass the bill, and today I think it will see the light of the day in Rajya Sabha too. So I think it is a historic moment, and we need to thank Honorable Prime Minister and the entire team for making it possible. For the past 27 years, something which had been pending has been actually translated into reality. The journey started in 96 and now we are in 2023. So it is a historic moment.
There's a lot that one needs to read in, because there's a clause in the bill which says only implemented after delimitation. Now, we are going to see the census take place in 26, then we are going to see the delimitation. And mind you, something to chew on. It took 2 years for Jammu and Kashmir to complete delimitation. How much will it take, for delimitation to be completed across India? And not just that, the South states will have already raised apprehensions on delimitation. So are we actually going to see light of day where this bill is concerned? At least till 2029, it doesn't look like. Many would suggest not even till 2030. But having said that, there's also talk of a quota within a quota, the demand for OBC, the demand for Muslims to be included in the quota as well. But Kakuli Dastidar, I'm going to bring you in. A fiery speech you made on the floor of the parliament. And I have to say, somewhere down the line, the TMC has put its money where the mouth is, because you've given maximum reservation to women in itself, where it comes down to it. What are your apprehensions? Why do you call it a jumla?
See, right at the onset, there's a lot of controversy regarding the name of the bill. It's actually the 128th amendment of the Indian Constitution bill. But some of the treasury benches, the speakers, while they were speaking, they said this is Nari Shakti Vandan Adhiniyam. So we are confused regarding the name, because what goes on the paper tabled is the name of the bill. So how can they, be contradicting themselves? It's a constitutional amendment bill, but here they say it's Nari Shakti Vandan Adhiniyam. So you have to first raise a question at what they are trying to say. Secondly, I agree completely with you when you say that by tying up delimitation with the bill, this appears that it is intentional and it is just a gimmick prior to the forthcoming elections in certain states, followed by the Lok Sabha elections, the general elections. The women of the country are being taken for a ride. This will really not come through in the forthcoming 1 or 2 elections, because first delimitation has to take place and then only the bill will come into effect after it becomes an act today, if it does. And then what I would like to say is that, those states which have been performing very well as far as reproductive health care is concerned, whereas women empowerment is concerned, they would really have no representation. So the person who does well, a student who does the homework well, gets 0 for the exam. That is what is going to happen. Those states which have been having children beyond the stipulated limit, so to say, they have 8-10 children, they will have more population, and representing the increased population, there will be more seats. And like you said, the states in the south, they have been working hard on their numbers, on their health care, on their women's empowerment.
Control and
by population, the women are more empowered, they are more literate. And that is why they don't allow 8 children to come through. But states like towards the north, states like Uttar Pradesh, Bihar, the average might be 4 to 8 children per woman. So the population is much more. Delimitation will give them much more seats, many more seats. So this is unfair. That is what the common woman of India is understanding, that they have not been given justice through this bill.
Well, but the Home Minister did touch upon the fact that the apprehensions of the South State will be taken care of. But important points that Ms. Dastidar has raised, I want to cut across back to Ms. Sarangi. Let's come on the credit wars, ma'am. I think it would be a little abrasive to take full credit. Yes, it's happened under the Prime Minister. He's got the timing right. The numbers we saw in Lok Sabha, 454 and only 2 dissenting MPs, that to be from AIMIM. One understands its history in the making. But let's hark back, ma'am. Let's hark back. 1987, the first committee made by Rajiv Gandhi, top recommendation was women reservation. 96 it came under Gowda. Let's not forget, in 2010, when it passed in Rajya Sabha, Sushma Swaraj came out and hugged Sonia Gandhi because Sonia Gandhi was a proponent of this bill. So it's been a collective effort in the making. Why try and take full credit for it?
So I can only tell you that it's the collective responsibility for the passage of this bill, and this is in the interest of the women of the country. And it is heartening to find that everyone has come forward except 2. All the MPs have come forward to kind of say yes to this bill. But at the same time, I would say that ultimately the person or the government or the institution which translates the idea into reality must get the lion's share of the credit, as simple as that. See, on 12th September 1996, in the 11th Lok Sabha, Devgowda ji was the Prime Minister. At that point of time, this bill had come. And thereafter, one after the other, 98, 99, the 12th Lok Sabha, the 13th Lok Sabha, and thereafter, it could not be passed. And again, on 9th March 2010, as you can recollect, if we walked on the memory lane,
yes,
it was passed in the Rajya Sabha and Congress was in the chair. But at the same time, let me tell you very emphatically that at that point of time, it had backed 2/3 majority. And it had been passed in the Rajya Sabha, but Bharatiya Janata Party had come out in full support of the bill. We have always been with the women. But ultimately, there are 2 things, Preeti, which I would like to emphasize. Number 1, political will. Number 2, the ability or rather the capability to build consensus. So I think this government, Prime Minister Modi's government, a very strong government with a very strong leadership, has the capability to build consensus and also has tremendous political will, and that is why we are able to pass. See, ultimately, the passage of the bill is important, and whichever government has been able to do has to take the lion's share of the credit. I reiterate. So that is why we are saying that we have to pass the bill. And thereafter, let me come to the 2 other issues. Administrative procedures and processes have to be followed. And we do not want a situation where there are glitches on the ground during implementation. So we have to be very careful. And the government of the country is run with tremendous sense of maturity. Now, as far as census is concerned, as far as delimitation exercise is concerned, why should we think it would take us to 2030? It would be completed maybe by 2029. And I would bring to your knowledge, or rather I would request you to recollect that in 2002, the 84th amendment of the Constitution had taken place, and at that point of time it was very clear that there would be no increase in the seats of the Parliament or the Vidhan Sabhas till 2026. So the delimitation exercise would take place as per the procedure, and census could not take place because of Corona.
I'm going to go back to Ms. Dastidar, but I'm going to raise a question. The fact is, the Congress says we had intent, but we didn't have the numbers because our allies didn't come and support us. You had a brute majority. What made you not bring it up in the years earlier, which you could have, ma'am? Number 1. Number 2, there is so much talk of census. COVID is long and gone. Why are we still not holding the census? It's been 2 years the census is due, but I'm going to come back to it. I want to cut across to Ms. Dastidar. Ms. Dastidar, the fact is, whether we like it or not, it's been hanging fire for years. I understand many from your own party, and if you can go back to even the likes of Krishna Bose, have fought vociferously for it. But the fact is that it's happened under this government. He's got the timing right, whether one likes it or not, the Prime Minister.
You see, I'm afraid in a day or 2 down the line, we might hear that the sun shines because of the Bharatiya Janata Party government, or the moon where we landed through the Chandrayaan 3 amidst back-breaking, path-breaking work of the scientists have been possible because of them. That's not true, because the work started much, much earlier. I mean the Pokhran. That was much, much earlier. So if they start taking credit for everything under the sun, it is not true. Every member of the parliament, of both the houses, every citizen of this country, particularly ladies, they have been waiting for the reservation for women. But no political party in the country had the gall to come up and nominate women for either Vidhan Sabha or Lok Sabha on their own, without being forced by a bill becoming an act or through the Election Commission's notification, except All India Trinamool Congress. 1996, Mamata Banerjee really fought on the floor of the House to make this happen. It didn't because of certain patriarchs. I don't want to name them.
Socialist parties, ma'am, why not name them? Name and shame sometimes.
It's okay. And then when she saw that the bill could not be passed, and when the Election Commission also didn't give out any notification, she sent nearly 40% women. She nominated 40% women for consecutive 2 terms to the Lok Sabha. And after being elected, we are more than 36% here today. So why the Bharatiya Janata Party didn't nominate so many women? Why the Bharatiya Janata Party doesn't have a single woman chief minister in the country? So this just goes to prove their intent, which is just, trying to, it's like buying extra claps from the common people that we've passed the bill, but when their intent is not true.
And I'm going to take this question to Ms. Sarangi. Ms. Sarangi, Ms. Dasidar has a clear point. The question of you had brute majority, why now? That question will remain. But the second question which she's posed, you have 5 elections coming in, Ms. Sarangi. Put your money where your mouth is. Give 33 representation in tickets that you give to women in Madhya Pradesh, in Chhattisgarh, in Rajasthan, in Telangana, in Mizoram. Why not?
See, here we are talking about the implementation of the bill that would become an act very shortly. Now, we will not be digressing from this concern, my request. And number 2, of course, I would like to say that this government, our government, has both the number and the intent. Had one not been there, we would not have been standing here with so much of confidence and hope and optimism. Now, as far as they are concerned, all these people are concerned, the opposition parties are concerned, they may be having the intent, but they didn't have the numbers. So I think once they did not have the numbers, why did they actually go for it? They knew they would not be able to build the consensus. So it was their failure to build the consensus. And I said, I do not take 100% of the credit. I am saying lion's share of the credit, because ultimately, Prime Minister Modi's government is actually translating that into action. Now, as you said, as far as the delimitation exercise is concerned, I would reiterate, I would say again that the government represented by Honorable Home Minister yesterday was very candid when it said that while actually implementing the recommendations of the Delimitation Commission, it would be taken into account the fact that, the southern states should not be punished for good work that they have done in terms of population control. So we would be taking into account, and at the same time I would say, let it come, let it be implemented. There would be shortcomings.
And when will it be implemented is the problem, because we are waiting for it to be implemented. And one thing, Harsimrat Kaur Badal said it right. आपने लड्डू रख दिया है, अब आप खाने नहीं दे रहे हैं. दिखा दिया है.
Definitely by 2029, see, census could not take place because of diverse reasons. Corona was there. We couldn't have done it. This is one. And number 2, delimitation cannot be done before 2026.
Ms. Dasidar, I'll bring you in on this. Now, 2 questions. Number 1, even if it, the demand is implemented now, how can the government implement it now without actually identifying on, the seats which need to be reserved for women without a census? How is it even, or the delimitation exercise, ma'am?
You see, that is the question. COVID has been over for quite a few months now, but the census has not started. That is why it appears to be a jumla, just to entice the woman voter, which is not appreciated. You see, the states which are going into election, why don't they project a lady as a would-be chief minister and go into the election? That would prove their intent. Or why they already don't have a woman chief minister. Or the other, heinous crimes taking place against the women in the country, particularly in Jantar Mantar. You must have covered when our medalist, the gold medalists, the wrestlers were sitting there in dharna in protest of their molestation by a Bharatiya Janata Party leader, an MP. He's still sitting in the house. Why wasn't he punished? The intent, see, the proof of the pudding is in the eating. If the intent is to do good for the women, then that man, I don't want to name him, he should have been suspended. He should have been suspended. So we don't see an intent of this bill seeing the fruit of the day. By 2029 or maybe even later than that, it is just trying to beat the drums and gather the women's vote.
All right, trying to beat the drums, gather the women vote. I have last 5 minutes. Instead of politics, maybe we can also come together, because at least I would reckon both of you will come to, together on the fact that this is a headlight moment for India. The fact that both the Lok Sabha and the Rajya Sabha have been able to come together and pass a bill. It is historic in the sheer strength that it's been able to do so. Aparajita Sarangi, last 5 minutes, ma'am, I'll give you 2 minutes to actually count back in history and maybe give due to all the women who fought the good fight. The likes of Sushma Swaraj from your own party, Geeta Mukherjee from the left, Krishna Bosa, even a Mamata Banerjee or a Sonia Gandhi.
I started my talk with you by saying that it has been a collective responsibility, and I just gave the number 454:2. So I think the Prime Minister today in the morning also thanked everybody cutting across party lines, all the MPs, whether male or female, whether this party or that party, for having passed the bill in the Lok Sabha yesterday, and today also we think it will be passed in the Rajya Sabha. So I think we are thankful to everybody, but at the same time I must say that to every action of Prime Minister Modi, there has to be an equal and opposite negative reaction from these people. They are naysayers, unfortunately, and cynicism is the disease they suffer from. This is a great moment for the women of the country, and I think all of us, instead of finding faults with the Prime Minister Modi's government, should celebrate this moment, should come out openly, and should for once trust Prime Minister Modi's government when it says that by 2029 these two exercises would have been completed. And I must say these are very complicated procedures. See, carrying out census is not a small job. Number two, carrying out the delimitation exercise by the Delimitation Commission is also a very complicated process. So I think we do not want a PIL in the Supreme Court tomorrow. And that was what told by the Honorable Union Law Minister yesterday. So we want absolutely error-free exercise, and that is why it will take time. But we are confident that by 2029, it would be grounded.
Ms. Dastidar, let's just give it the next 10 years. Do you see it seeing the light of day if it passes on both houses today? Because this is historic.
Definitely it is historic. Definitely it is welcome. And definitely the truth is it was started much before Bharatiya Janata Party started the effort of bringing it on the floor of the House for discussion, like it happened yesterday. And we are all happy, women are happy. But we doubt whether it will really be implemented. You have to wait. How many years? That is you just now quoted Honorable Member Harsimrat ji when she said the laddu is in front of you, but you don't get to eat it. So you just remember the Ujjwala Yojana. In Ujjwala Yojana, we were told that just because women, they phuko the chula, their chest, lungs and all getting affected, their eyes are getting affected. But what we saw down the line after 1 year, the cylinders were empty, they didn't have money to refill the cylinders, and they were using the stove on which they were putting wood and again using wood and charcoal to cook. So naturally it fell flat on the face, that Ujjwala Yojana. The same thing might happen here. There's a lot of hue and cry, so we don't want to comment now. We will wait. We hope it comes through, because it was our project and it was our leader Mamata Banerjee who's shown the way by fielding nearly 40% women. Let them field the women without the reservation.
I have the last 30 seconds. I just want to ask you, did you like each other's speech yesterday? If you had to pick the best speech, which one would you pick? I'm putting you both on a spot.
I definitely like her speech all the time because she's very smart. She comes from the administrative side and she's worked very well. Do you know that she is one of the, I'm the other. We both have done the maximum amount of work whereas MP-led development is concerned.
I didn't know that.
Both of us. We are the top two in the country. As far as I'm
Nari
glad.
Shakti
So yeah, so I always appreciate her.
Admirer of Madam Kakuli. So I think there is absolutely no question of any kind of ill will here. We are both women and we are very happy. And only thing is that, I would just like to mention here that out of 78 women in the Lok Sabha today, 42 women around are from the Bharatiya Janata Party. All things aside, we are very happy that this has come. And Kakuli ji and I both are extremely happy and delighted.
Well, okay with that. I appreciate both of you for taking out the time, and thank you for the speeches that you made yesterday on the floor of the House, because you did it collectively, not just for your parties, but for the women of this country. Appreciate you both for joining us. Thank you. The conversation continues on the other side. All right, viewers. With that, we're going to take you now into what's taking place at the Rajya Sabha. Nirmala Sitharaman has arrived, and very soon she would be speaking, is what we are given to understand, and then the bill would be put to a vote. One thing is for sure, that it will pass the Rajya Sabha. History will be etched today. But having said that, the caveat in it, the timeline to the implementation of this bill is inconclusive. We're going to get you the latest. A quick break. Stay with us.
Global Odia investor Biswanath Patnaik and an accomplished Odia entrepreneur Arun Kar made the country and the state of Odisha proud by ringing the bell to commemorate this historic moment. Their companies Expert Nest Limited and Earth Nest Limited are now listed on Afrinex, the largest international stock exchange in Mauritius by market capitalization. The listing ceremony took place at Balaclava in Mauritius in the presence of the Prime Minister of the Republic of Mauritius, Pravind Kumar Jugnauth, and the High Commissioner of India to Mauritius, K. Nandini Singla.
This event is particularly timely, not only for the capital market sector in Mauritius, but for the whole economy and for our jurisdiction.
Over 90% of India's $75 billion investment into Africa has been routed through one single country, Mauritius.
Afrinex International Stock Exchange listed $500 million green bond of Earth Nest Limited and the $1.5 billion bond of Expert Nest Limited.
जब लिस्ट होता है तो it becomes more credible, the valuation of the company.
We considered Mauritius because it is very much strategically placed, where you have on the west side the entire Africa continent and the east side we have the India.
The emergence of Expert Nest and Earth Nest on Afrinex not only underscores their achievements but also fosters deeper bonds between India, Mauritius and the United Kingdom, thus fortifying intercontinental relationships.
कविता लेके आया था, उसके पहले गले मिलकर गला ना दबाइए, और ये कविता पढ़ के खत्म करूंगा और जय हिंद बोल दूंगा। ये ओम प्रकाश वाल्मीकि जी का है। इसमें जो प्रतीक हैं वो किसी जाति विशेष के लिए नहीं है, क्योंकि हम सब के अंदर एक ठाकुर है जो न्यायालयों में बैठा हुआ है, विश्वविद्यालयों में बैठा हुआ है, संसद की दहलीज को वो चेक करता है। तो कविता कुछ यूं है: चूल्हा मिट्टी का, मिट्टी तालाब की, तालाब ठाकुर का, भूख रोटी की, रोटी बाजरे की, बाजार खेत का, खेत ठाकुर का, बैल ठाकुर का, हल ठाकुर का, हल की मूठ पर हथेली अपनी, फसल ठाकुर की, कुआं ठाकुर का, पानी ठाकुर का, खेत खलिहान ठाकुर के, गली मोहल्ले ठाकुर के, फिर अपना क्या, गांव, देश, शहर। और मैं फिर से क्लैरिफाई करता हूं, वो ठाकुर मैं भी हूं, वो ठाकुर संसद में है, वो ठाकुर विश्वविद्यालयों में है, वो ठाकुर विधायिका को कंट्रोल करता है। इस ठाकुर को मारो जो हमारे अंदर है। जय हिंद मैम, जय हिंद।
बुरा मत मानिएगा, बांग्ला में एक कहावत है, वोट बड़ो बालाई। इलेक्शन की कंपल्शन है भाई। somehow opposition unity and India alliance নিয়ে ট্রেজারি বেঞ্চ ইজ ওয়ারিড। তাই ইলেকশন স্টান্স আসছে পরপর। নতুন পার্লামেंट भवन उद्बोधन হলো। हमारा तो आदत ही हो गया था कि प्रधानमंत्री जी पार्लियामेंट आते हैं, लेकिन संसद हाउस के अंदर बहुत कम आते हैं, हाउस के अंदर बोलते और भी कम। वो दुख भी इस बार पहले 2 दिन में 4 बार सुनने के बाद चले गए। और विमेन रिजर्वेशन को लेकर नारी शक्ति बंधन बोल के पास कराना है। वी विल अप्रिशिएट, बेटर लेट देन नेवर। 9.5 साल ही सही, थोड़ा विलंबित सोच ही सही। We will certainly support women reservation bill in this house with all our criticism.
इसका अमेंडमेंट करने का कोई दिक्कत नहीं है। ये आप अब करने का तो ये 31 को डाल रहे हैं। इसका मकसद क्या है कि बिल ऐसा ही चले। नहीं, आप ही ने कहा 29 के बाद ये सब
29 को
नहीं, मैं सर जब पंचायत में रिजर्वेशन के लिए होता है, जिला पंचायत का होता है, तो ये वुमन रिजर्वेशन का क्यों नहीं होता? आज करो। और मैं एक कबीर का दुआ सुनाता हूँ, कल करने का आज करो, आज करने का अब करो, और फिर तो पल में प्रलय होगा तो फिर करेंगे कब? पल में प्रलय होगा तो फिर करेंगे कब?
मिस्टर नड्डा,
तो इसीलिए आप आज कीजिए। वी आर रेडी। वो इलीगल नहीं होता, जुडिशरी नहीं होता, कुछ नहीं।
Not a diplomat here and some BS travel advisories of, oh, don't go to Canada, don't go here. This is real. This is going to seriously affect Indian Canadians, Indians wanting to come to Canada, people wanting to go to India. It's going to be a mess for a lot of people, and it's going to look really, really bad on the Canadian government. And it's going to force this. I mean, the Indian government's forced the Trudeau government's hand domestically into addressing this situation. And unless Trudeau can, tomorrow release this report that he's got and it's dynamite, there's really nothing he can do. And if he thought he was just going to score an easy win here and distract from the Chinese interference scandal, and this would just be a lot easier to handle, India would be easier than China. Turns out that might not be the case, and this is the Indian government throwing sort of an opening salvo, showing that they have leverage over Canada. They can push buttons, and if Canada wants, better for lack of a better phrase, if Canada wants to play, they can play.
How the strained relationship between India and Canada is going to impact the immigration business?
As of now, we have no records, as there is no report and no updation on immigration impacts from both the countries. So till we receive anything formally, we cannot comment on that. Right now, immigration is going as it was going before.
In a process to migrate to Canada on a study visa, are they worried? Did they contact you?
Some of them have, because the social media these days plays a great role as to where we procure our information from. Yes, they are obviously affected by whatever is going on the social media, but to them also we have issued that same statement that till the time there is any formal announcement by our government or government from Canada, we cannot take it for granted that immigration will be affected.
बहुत सा बच्चा हमारा वहाँ गया हुआ है, ट्रेड्स है, वहाँ पे लोग ऑलरेडी रह रहे हैं और बहुत सारी कंपनियां हैं हिंदुस्तान में कनाडा की। सो ये खत्म होने में ही दोनों कंट्रीज का फायदा है।
वहाँ पे जो भी हो रहा है हमारी जो गवर्नमेंट के बीच में हो रहा है वो ठीक हो जाए कि जो भी वहाँ पे रह रहे हैं लोग उनको थोड़ी घबराने की जरूरत ना पड़े, क्योंकि जो यहाँ रह रहे हैं उनकी फैमिलीज को भी थोड़ा सा होगा कि वहाँ पे जो हमारे फैमिली मेम्बर्स है कहीं उनको दिक्कत ना आए कुछ रहने की, तो इसलिए हम चाहते हैं कि सब ठीक हो जाए।
सत्ता पक्ष हो या विपक्ष में हो, जितनी भी पुरुष मानसिकता है, महिलाओं की वंदना, इतिहास गवाह है कि जब जब आपको शक्ति की जरूरत होती है, जब जब आपको सत्ता पाने की जरूरत होती है, जब जब आप विजय की आशा रखते हैं, तब आप एक महिला को देवी बनाकर उसकी पूजा करने लगते हैं, वंदना करने लगते हैं। लेकिन अंदर में एक पुरुष की जीत और उसकी वंदना होती है। आपकी वंदना हमने जंतर मंतर में बैठी उन महिलाओं के रूप में देखी। आपकी वंदना, आपका महिलाओं का सम्मान जब मणिपुर पे हमारी महिलाएं निवस्त्र हो रही थी, हमने तब देखी। आपकी वंदना और आपकी पूजा और सम्मान जब एक रेपिस्ट को बचाने के लिए जब आप सत्ता पक्ष वालों को यह मालूम चलता है कि वोट की राजनीति में जरूरत है, तो मैं रिक्वेस्ट करती हूँ।
Powered by UBI, good people to bank with. Co-powered by PolicyBazaar.com, हर फैमिली होगी इंश्योर्ड।
All right, welcome back, viewers. Let's take you now directly to the Rajya Sabha. Any minute now, Nirmala Sitharaman would be speaking in favor of the women reservation bill. And after that, very soon, it's going to be put to the vote test. I want to cut across immediately to my colleague Polumi Saha, who's joining us live. Polumi, you know, one thing is a given, that it will clear the Rajya Sabha test. The numbers were astounding yesterday when it came down to the Lok Sabha, but when can we expect it to be put to vote?
Well, things are a little delayed at the moment. We are expecting, of course, like you pointed out, Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman to speak shortly. Obviously, you can see as the proceedings are taking place, Dr. Harivanshu is in the chair at the moment. He's trying to speed up as far as the speakers are concerned. He's being very strict about the time that has been allotted to them. No more, in fact, spilling over in time in terms of the time that has been allotted. So after Nirmala Sitharaman, I beg your pardon, speaks in the Rajya Sabha, she'll be the last speaker from the side of the Bharatiya Janata Party. The Law Minister will make his reply, which is when we're expecting that Prime Minister Narendra Modi will be in the House when the Law Minister replies to the debate. Of course, he'll exit the House as soon as voting begins because he's not a member of the Rajya Sabha and the lobbies will have to be cleared and only members will be inside the House. So we hope that in another hour's time, the voting process begins because after that, women ministers and MPs of the Bharatiya Janata Party, women MPs, will proceed towards the Prime Minister's office inside the Parliament building to felicitate the Prime Minister and thank the Prime Minister on the passage of the Women's Reservation Bill. Tentatively, they've been told 9:15 p.m., but I expect the time to be delayed at the moment, Preeti.
Well, it does seem, yesterday we thought that the voting went on and on, especially with the amendments that were moved, keeping in mind that it is a constitutional amendment bill. But, Polumi, what can we expect today? Will the voting be as, the period of time, as long as that? And can you take us through on some of the marquee speeches that were made through the course of the day on the floor of the Rajya Sabha?
Well, Well, yes, the voting process could take long. This, of course, will possibly depend on the fact whether these members are going to seek division of votes. Remember, yesterday, every time Asad Owaisi moved for an amendment, he sought a division of votes. It's unlikely that that will happen this time in the Rajya Sabha, but expect several amendments to be proposed. Already, members have said, for instance, Manoj Jha of the RJD, when he spoke, he said, I have put forth a lot of amendments. Please do take them into consideration when, of course, the voting process begins. Now, we are hoping that if at all these MPs do not seek for a division of votes, they're satisfied with the voice vote that takes place on the amendments that they've moved, things could be faster. But again, you have to account for at least an hour and a half's time for the entire process to be over. But of course, it will be a momentous, occasion. The moment, in fact, that actually happens, and of course the bill is passed. I keep saying passed because obviously we've not seen anyone stand up today in the Rajya Sabha to say I oppose this bill. Everyone has started their speech with I stand in support of this bill. Today, of course, we saw some very good speeches made by members of parliament from the Rajya Sabha. This is, of course, said to be the house of the intellectuals, the house of elders. So clearly, there was a lot of time allotted to them as well. Manoj Jha spoke well. There was Sandeep Pathak from the Aam Aadmi Party who also gave a very impassioned speech. Dola Sen from the Trinamool Congress who spoke in Bengali. Mosam Noor again from the Trinamool Congress. Let me just say that it's not an exhaustive list. I have not heard every speech that has been made in Rajya Sabha, so I might be missing out some of those speeches that have been made. But there were some first-time speakers as well. A BJP member of parliament just spoke, a female member of parliament just spoke. It was her maiden speech, and what a historic moment that she actually was making her maiden speech during. Saroj Pandey for the Bharatiya Janata Party as well, and of course expect one of those headline speeches to come from the Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman, who's slated to speak, who's already in the House just waiting for her turn at the moment.
All right, Poulami, we're going to keep coming to you, but you mentioned some of the speeches and we must play it because it's history that has been recorded on the floor of the Rajya Sabha, cutting across to some of the speeches that were made on the floor of the upper house, the House of Elders.
कि 2004 से 2014 तक कितने सेक्रेटरी ओबीसी थे और कहां थे वो ओबीसी के सेक्रेटरी, किस क्राइटेरिया में थे, जरा हमको इसका ज्ञानवर्धन कीजिए। देखिए, मैं बार बार बोलता हूं, लीडर को लीडर बनना पड़ेगा, ट्यूटर से नहीं चलता काम। ये ट्यूटर्ड स्टेटमेंट से नहीं चलता है काम, और वह भी ट्यूटर अगर कोई लीडर हो तो भी समझ में आता है। ये एनजीओ को लेकर के आ जाते हो, जिन एनजीओ को जिनको आता न पता न सता, कोई चीज जानकारी नहीं, वो आपको समझाते हैं और आप बोल करके सोचो आई वाज शॉक्ड एंड शैटर्ड एंड शॉक्ड। अरे भाई, शौक तो लगना ही था, जब पढ़ना ही नहीं पूरा तो शौक ही लगेगा, और क्या होगा। भारत को पहला ओबीसी प्रधानमंत्री भारतीय जनता पार्टी एनडीए ने दिया, यह भी हमको ध्यान में रखना। ये ओबीसी की बात करते हैं। मैं आउट ऑफ 303 बीजेपी के एमपी हैं, 303 में 85 यानी 29% हमारे एमपी ओबीसी के हैं, यह भी हमको ध्यान में रखना चाहिए। उसी तरीके से 1358 एमएलए में 27% ओबीसी के हैं, 27%। आउट ऑफ 163 हमारे एमएलसी जो हैं उसमें 40% ओबीसी के हैं। कांग्रेस के जितने एमपी हैं उससे ज्यादा तो हमारे ओबीसी एमपी हैं, ये भी हमको ध्यान रखना चाहिए, ये भी हमको ध्यान रखना चाहिए। मैं सिर्फ लोकसभा की बात कर रहा हूं, अगर लोकसभा और राज्यसभा मिला ले तो आपसे कहीं ज्यादा हम निकल जाते हैं, ये भी आपको ध्यान रखना। इसलिए, और आप ओबीसी की बात करें, आप ओबीसी की बात करें, जो एक बार नहीं अनेकों बार ओबीसी को गाली दे, और एक बार नहीं अनेकों बार बोले मैं नहीं माफी मांगूंगा।
इसका अमेंडमेंट करने का कोई दिक्कत नहीं है। ये आप अब करने का तो ये 31 को डाल रहे हैं। इसका मकसद क्या है कि बिल ऐसा ही चले। नहीं, आप ही ने कहा 29 के बाद ये सब
29 को
नहीं, मैं सर जब पंचायत में रिजर्वेशन के लिए होता है, जिला पंचायत का होता है, तो ये वुमन रिजर्वेशन का क्यों नहीं होता? आज करो। और मैं एक कबीर का दुआ सुनाता हूँ, कल करने का आज करो, आज करने का अब करो, और फिर तो पल में प्रलय होगा तो फिर करेंगे कब? पल में प्रलय होगा तो फिर करेंगे कब?
मिस्टर नड्डा,
तो इसीलिए आप आज कीजिए, वी आर रेडी। वो इलीगल नहीं होता, जुडिशरी नहीं होता, कुछ नहीं।
इस बिल में नियत ही साफ नहीं है सरकार के। अनिश्चित कालखंड के लिए, अनिश्चित प्रतिबद्धताओं के लिए कोई रोड मैप नहीं, और ये बिल पास किया जा रहा है। एक बड़ी आबादी को आपने खारिज कर दिया, उनको एक्सक्लूड कर दिया। कल शाम से प्रधानमंत्री जी की टीम को समझना चाहिए कि चर्चा बिल के पास होने की नहीं हो रही है, चर्चा हो रही है ओबीसीज की। उनको क्यों नहीं इंक्लूड किया? चर्चा हो रही है जातिगत जनगणना की। और मैं समझता हूं कि ये संदेश है साफ तौर पर, अभी भी आपके पास वक्त है कि अनिश्चित कालखंड के लिए, बल्कि निश्चित कालखंड के लिए, और इन चीजों को इंक्लूड करके आप फिर से अपने पोजीशन को रिवाइज करिए। अन्यथा लोगों के पास और विकल्प होते हैं आपके पोजीशन को और बिल को बदलने के।
बुरा मत मानिएगा, बांग्ला में एक कहावत है, ভোট বড় বালাই। इलेक्शन की कंपल्सन है भाई। somehow opposition unity and India alliance নিয়ে treasury bench is worried। তাই ইলেকশন স্টান্স আসছে পরপর। নতুন পার্লামেंट भवन उद्बोधन হলো। हमारा तो आदत ही हो गया था कि प्रधानमंत्री जी पार्लियामेंट आते हैं, लेकिन संसद हाउस के अंदर बहुत कम आते हैं, हाउस के अंदर बोलते और भी कम। वो दुख भी इस बार पहले 2 दिन में 4 बार सुनने के बाद चले गए। और विमेन रिजर्वेशन को लेकर नारी शक्ति बंधन बोल के पास कराना है। वी विल अप्रिशिएट, बेटर लेट देन नेवर। 9.5 साल ही सही, थोड़ा विलंबित सोच ही सही। We will certainly support women reservation bill in this house with all our criticism.
I brought this reservation bill and it was passed in the Karnataka Assembly, and the same was introduced in the Parliament when I became the Prime Minister, and former late the Cabinet Secretary Mr. T.S.R. Subramaniam was there. He has written all details. Sir, I don't want to quote all these things. It contains all the materials. If you permit, I will place it on the table of the House.
Permitted. This may be placed on the table of the House.
What you just heard was, let's cut across right now to my colleague Polumi, and we're going to play more excerpts coming in from the Rajya Sabha today. But Polumi, once again, I would reckon 21st September 2023 would be a red letter day when it came down to the passage of this bill. History stands testimony on how difficult and how long a fight this has been. But having said that, Polumi, a big question mark on the timeline, which is still inconclusive.
That's right. The BJP, of course, has answered that question. They did say that JP Nadda, of course, as he was speaking in the Rajya Sabha today, he was the first speaker for the Bharatiya Janata Party. He did say that by 2029, this will be, in fact, implemented, and it will become possible to, in fact, have this implemented by 2029. He said that there is a process. It has to be done as per that process. There has to be a census, which will be conducted around 2026. Subsequent to that, there will be the delimitation exercise, which will be conducted by the Delimitation Commission. And after that, these seats will be reserved for women, the 1/3 seats that have been promised as per this new women's reservation bill. The government is very clear. Amit Shah spoke in the Lok Sabha yesterday as well. And he said that, as you can see, that the passage of the bill in itself has been the biggest hurdle. So let's not allow for any of these questions forces to hold us back in this moment right now when we've got the opportunity to pass this bill. We pass this bill and then it is obligatory upon us to ensure that it is implemented. So you'll know that at least, it has been passed and it will be implemented. So let that not hold you back today in the passage of this bill. Of course, the opposition has been questioning this both in the Lok Sabha and in the Rajya Sabha all of today as well, saying, well, basically this was only a political jumla, because at the end of the day, this could have been done right away in the upcoming elections. Then why didn't the government do so? But the government is very clear that there is a process to this. The census needs to be conducted because it hasn't since 2011, and only following that process so that it is not challenged later legally in any court of law. It needs to be done as per that process, Preeti.
Appreciate you joining us. Polumi goes back into the Rajya Sabha. The final moments in terms of before it goes into the voting. Nirmala Sitharaman to speak. But, viewers, one thing I would reckon one must absorb and soak in. The journey of women empowerment in our country, or rather across the world, has been long and arduous. There have been many chapters to it. While one thing is definite, that the time for women reservation in India must come. We started off with a paltry 4 to 5%. We are just about 14%. It's been very, very slow. But maybe we have to wait a little longer. But maybe we should also celebrate that the passage of this bill in both houses. From here on, it's another fight. There is no timeline. It is very inconclusive. And God alone knows what the political developments are in 2024 or 2029, when one might even see this bill coming up. 2029. Definitely not before. Quick break. Stay with us. On the other side is Rahul Kala.
इसका अमेंडमेंट करने का कोई दिक्कत नहीं है। ये आप अब करने का तो ये 31 को डाल रहे हैं। इसका मकसद क्या है कि बिल ऐसा ही चले। नहीं, आप ही ने कहा 29 के बाद ये सब
29 को
नहीं, मैं सर जब पंचायत में रिजर्वेशन के लिए होता है, जिला पंचायत का होता है, तो ये वुमेन रिजर्वेशन का क्यों नहीं होता? आज करो। और मैं एक कबीर का दुआ सुनाता हूँ, कल करने का आज करो, आज करने का अब करो, और फिर तो पल में प्रलय होगा तो फिर करेंगे कब? पल में प्रलय होगा तो फिर करेंगे कब?
मिस्टर नड्डा,
तो इसीलिए आप आज कीजिए। वी आर रेडी। वो इलीगल नहीं होता, जुडिशरी नहीं होता, कुछ नहीं।
I don't understand how Canada could go public in such an embarrassingly dismaying manner in their parliament, making unsubstantiated accusations against India. It does look like in Canada the need to pander to a domestic political constituency has overridden their good sense about their relationship with India. And I think we need to now take some steps to ensure that it doesn't deteriorate any further. I know I was shocked to hear about the threats to Hindus and Hindu students in particular. That is something which the Canadians have a responsibility. When they accept people on their soil, they have a responsibility to look after the well-being and the safety and security of all people, certainly of Indian citizens there. And because they are the ones who provoked this problem, they need to be particularly conscious of their responsibility to prevent it getting out of hand.
It is very disturbing to hear that situation is getting worse because of the relationship between the two countries. A lot of Punjabis in large numbers have settled down in Canada. Every year, nearly about 1 lakh students go and study there. There's a sense of panic which has crept up in Punjab. People are calling me up, parents are calling me up, what will happen to their kids? what will happen to their families. So government of India and government of Canada should, as soon as possible, find a solution to this.
How the strained relationship between India and Canada is going to impact the immigration business?
As of now, we have no records, as there is no report and no updation on immigration impacts from both the countries. So till we receive anything formally, we cannot comment on that. Right now, immigration is going as it was going before.
In a process to migrate to Canada on a study visa, are they worried? Did they contact you?
Some of them have, because the social media these days plays a great role as to where we procure our information from. Yes, they are obviously affected by whatever is going on the social media, but to them also we have issued that same statement that till the time there is any formal announcement by our government or government from Canada, we cannot take it for granted that immigration will be affected.
बहुत सा बच्चा हमारा वहाँ गया हुआ है, ट्रेड्स है, वहाँ पे लोग ऑलरेडी रह रहे हैं और बहुत सारी कंपनियां हैं हिंदुस्तान में कनाडा की. सो ये खत्म होने में ही दोनों कंट्रीज का फायदा है.
वहाँ पे जो भी हो रहा है हमारी जो गवर्नमेंट के बीच में हो रहा है वो ठीक हो जाए कि जो भी वहाँ पे रह रहे हैं लोग उनको थोड़ी घबराने की जरूरत ना पड़े, क्योंकि जो यहाँ रह रहे हैं उनकी फैमिलीज को भी थोड़ा सा होगा कि वहाँ पे जो हमारे फैमिली मेम्बर्स है कहीं उनको दिक्कत ना आए कुछ रहने की, तो इसलिए हम चाहते हैं कि सब ठीक हो जाए.
Charlotte, India has issued an advisory today, and that advisory very carefully worded talks of growing anti-India activities and politically condoned hate crimes and criminal violence in Canada. All Indian nationals there and those contemplating travel are urged to exercise utmost caution. What do you make of this advisory issued by India?
I think there's a growing concern around attacks on temples that has been something that's building for a while, an anti-India bias that we're seeing actually across the West, but that really has been seeing a real issue in Canada. So I think this concern is something that has been present and growing. It could well be that what has happened in the last 48 hours actually will trigger more anti-India sentiment and more attacks on temples and potentially the High Commission. I think if this kind of statement has been issued, again, this is something that will be based on intelligence, and people should heed caution to statements like this, absolutely.
Okay, and what's the response to the words used by the Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau when he talks of credible allegations, not credible evidence, but credible allegations, and not direct link as revealed by investigations, but a potential link? What's the response to this?
I think for the Prime Minister to have made a statement like this at all...
You are watching India Today, powered by Finest, Be Sustainable Change, a BNP Group company.
Presented by RP Sanjeev Goenka Group, Growing Legacies. Co-presented by Sensory Laminates by Manish Malhotra, Fashion for your furniture.
Co-presented by
Macho Hind, Bade Aaram Se. Co-powered by PolicyBazaar.com, Har family hogi insured. Co-powered by The Bold Look of Kohler. UBI, good people to bank with. आपके भरोसे के लिए मैक्स लाइफ इंश्योरेंस. किर्लोस्कर.
Good evening and welcome. You're watching the news track. I'm Rahul Kamal. India activating a diplomatic ballistic missile against Canada. Visas for Canadian nationals now suspended. This is an escalation of a kind we haven't seen in recent memory. India-Canada ties now going down a very slippery slope. What happens next? Will Canada retaliate? And most importantly, will Ottawa get the message? Will they stop harboring and nurturing Khalistani terrorists? That's my top focus on the news track.
India-Canada face-off just got hotter. Confirmed, India suspends visas. Visible India-Canada breakdown. Trudeau government debunked on Niger. Indian diplomacy flexes muscle. Ball now in Trudeau's court. Big focus on Newstrack.
The Modi government has brought about a new way of dealing with things domestically. In Indian politics, we've seen that over the past 9 years. This is the first time the government is engaging in this sort of international muscle flexing. The world hasn't seen this from New India. It's a very strong message, not just to Ottawa, but to countries across the world. We look at the diplomatic ramifications, the people-to-people ties, and the economic consequences of this decision. Let's get started. Here are the headlines I'm tracking today. India debunks Trudeau government on the Khalistani terrorist Niger's killing, says Canada has not shared a shred of evidence. India calls Canada a safe haven for extremists and terrorists. Crackdown on Khalistani terror by the National Investigating Agency. Images of 10 men involved in San Francisco, India consulate attack identified. NIA seeks information on the accused. Women's reservation bill set to be passed by the Rajya Sabha. JP Nadda leads the BJP's charge in the upper house, lashes out at the Congress over quota bill politics.
भारत को पहला ओबीसी प्रधानमंत्री भारतीय जनता पार्टी एनडीए ने दिया, यह भी हमको ध्यान रखना।
Supreme Court refuses to intervene with the orders of the Kaveri Water Management Board that directed Karnataka to release 5,000 cusecs of water to Tamil Nadu. Boeing rolls out a big Make in India plan to open the largest facility outside of the US near Bengaluru, says it will buy components worth 10,000 crore rupees from India every year. India has raised the pitch against Canada by suspending visas for Canadian nationals. New Delhi has also debunked the Trudeau government on Niger's killing and has accused Canada of becoming a safe haven for terrorists and extremists. It's a breakdown of ties between India and Canada, which is now visible for the world to see.
It is an all-out diplomatic war between India and Canada. Terming Canada a safe haven for terrorists and extremists, the Indian government decided to suspend the visa operations in Canada due to operational reasons.
If there is any country, if you're talking about reputational issues and reputational damage, if there's any country that needs to look at this, I think it is Canada and its growing reputation as a place, as a safe haven for terrorists, for extremists, and for organized crime. And I think that's a country that needs to worry about its international reputation.
BLS International, an online visa application center, has 2 stopped services until further notice.
You are aware of the security threats being faced by our High Commission and consulates in Canada. This has disrupted their normal functioning. Accordingly, our High Commission and consulates are temporarily unable to process visa applications. We will be reviewing the situation on a regular basis.
The visa war means no new visas will be issued to Canadians planning to visit India. However, there will not be any problem for Indians and Canadians who already have valid visas to travel. Indian authorities on Wednesday had issued a hard-hitting advisory pointing to politically condoned hate crimes in Canada, urging Indian nationals and students in that country to be cautious. Meanwhile, an Indian origin MP, Chandra Arya, has urged the Canadian Indian Authority to stay calm and vigilant. He described Hindu Canadians as soft targets.
I've heard from many Hindu Canadians who are fearful after this targeted attack. I urge Hindu Canadians to stay calm but vigilant. Please report any incident of Hindu phobia to your local law enforcement agencies.
Arya slammed Khalistan supporters and expressed his reservations about how, in the name of freedom of speech, the glorification of terrorism and hate crimes targeting religious groups are allowed to persist. The Canadian High Commission in India has said that out of an abundance of caution, they have decided to temporarily adjust staff presence